connected. Data being transferred. And we are good. I think we are streaming on Twitch. YouTube is a go, and we are live. We're here. We're doing it. Brother Tanner. Oh my God. I have the GM of the infamous Dopamine. Oh my God. There's so much that I want to discuss with you about Ashes of Creation. Sure. But usually on my 1v1s, when I do them live, we have like a little bit of a pre-show. So pre-show lasts like maybe like 10 minutes. It's just to kind of break the ice, let people get in the stream, and then we'll start our official like 1v1 episode, and then we'll go from there. And I honestly, I really love the conversation you had with our boy Burns at Copium Clinic. That was such a really good, I saw the whole interview, and there's going to be a little bit of, since it is a little bit of icebreaker, Burns asked you this question as well, so this might be a little bit reiterative, but
that's fine.
How did you end up coming to the Ashes community? Because it seemed to me like, you know, with Alec being, he's been the GM of Ethereum for quite some time, and I've actually interviewed Alec on the 1v1 podcast, and you know, with the whole, I don't know if you call it a debacle, personal drama, whatever you want to label it with Alec.
Implosion.
Almost. I mean, there's been...
The guild, like EPH basically disintegrated overnight.
It was wild.
It came as a massive shock, I think, to everybody that was in the community and like the people that kind of interacted with them. They were just such a powerhouse, you know, dominating game after game after game. And that was like the last thing that you would expect to see in the announcements channel the day that happened.
It was a lot of people, well, you know, as content creators, people like to send me stuff. Got to send screenshots of information. That's not really what I wanted to kind of ask. I mean, it's more so like with Alex stepping out of Ethereum, like, and just so you can fill me in, wasn't there two guilds that were kind of branching from Ethereum? There was the Dopamine, but wasn't there another one as well? Or did that disintegrate or just go into Dopamine?
They went into a different game, so it kind of broke off into a, hey, anyone who wants to play Ashes, you know, go check out these guys, and anybody who wants to go play TNL, go check out, you know, this guild over here. So it wasn't like, you know, people just took it for what it is. They digested the information, and then it was like, hey, you know, if I want to continue playing with some of the core team that made like the guild run, or that made the guild successful, you know, some of these players are going this direction, some of these players are going over here. So but I feel like a lot of the players that joined EPH for Ashes had really only started playing with EPH for Ashes, right? There was some overlap, but a good chunk of the player base, like that was their first experience with the guild. And a lot of people just really enjoyed the core team that we had, that we built there. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm just curious. Well, I'm not curious. I kind of know this question, but why were you chosen? Or did you step up, or did people nominate you, or like how did you take the throne of being the GM?
So it was a little bit of both. So what happened was I had been a guild leader for very close friends in like a classic WoW SOD. I had ran New World guilds as well too, and I had a successful reputation in a GM position before.
Okay.
And it was nice because I was also new to EPH, and I had no real personal bias when it came to like long-term EPH, new term, you know, like new player, brand new person entering into my guild. I was able to be like, I was like the best choice of a, you know, non-biased person as much as you can be to fill that position. And yeah, it was, you know, I had, when I joined EPH, I was an officer very early on. The reception was very well. A lot of people enjoyed like my leadership style. And then as we kind of transitioned into Dopamine, it was just, we sat down with the current council. And we just decided like what was going to be our like short-term and mid-term goal. And then like the end goal was always to just have me acting as like sole GM of the guild.
Damn. Okay. Well, I guess like for me, like there's just so much. God, I want to dive right into the freaking episode already because there's just so much going on as far as like PvP. There's like so many questions I want to ask you because, you know, Ethereum, you know, had a kind of reputation, and I think,
Yes.
you know, a person that is stepping out of the limelight and now you're stepping in those shoes, it's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? It's a little much
thing.
You know,
it is, right? So I mean, like Ethereum was a huge guild, and I mean, you couldn't really be filling in a bigger pair of shoes when it comes
Absolutely.
to like the MMO space. But I think that the most important thing that I think people will realize over time is that we don't claim any of their past accomplishments because I wasn't there for any of them.
right.
Like we are a brand new guild. We are here to pave the way forward. And I think that a lot of people are still kind of associating, you know, Dopamine
Ethereum.
and what we are as like Ethereum, which is like completely not the case, right? I mean, anyone who's in there can testify it as it is right now. It's a completely different environment. Like I am still a very hyper competitive person.
Absolutely.
And winning is still number one on the list, but the way that, like, 'cause just from what I've seen, you know, from and to say that you know, I didn't know the full extent of, like, you know, how things were properly, like how things were ran and how things were done in EPH, because I only really seen the Ashes variant of it. I wasn't there for TNL. I wasn't there for New World. So for me, I'm doing the best that I can right now. And I've like jumped into this role, and I feel like the difficult part is already done. Like we've already done it. You know, we're established as Dopamine. You know, there are some people that like to throw around EPH this, EPH that, but a large majority of the community really does recognize us as our own guild. And over time, it's just going to be more solidified.
Right. I think honestly, like it's going to take time. You know what I mean? And from a lot of the people that I've spoke to, Burns and some of the other guildies from Dopamine, they really like you a lot. I mean, they seem that you have not only the mentality for leadership, but you also have like the organization. You have a lot of the qualities that I think, I'm not saying that Alec was lacking at all, because I wasn't in Ethereum. I don't know how well that whole operation operated, but I think you're off to a great start with, I guess, the personability, like just how you are as a person, and that goes a long way. I think that's also why I really wanted to bring you on, because there's still people in the Ashes community that are guildless, you know, and I love talking to GMs because this is like free advertising for like you, your guild, and the people that may want to join.
Yeah, for sure. It's been really interesting because when we first started in phase one, we had, I think we had maybe like 70, 75 active players. And now, you know, after it's all said and done, currently we have about like 160 active players, and most of these guys are PvPers. So it's been really interesting to watch us grow more than I expected at all. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, we're a new guild coming in, like what's going to happen here? But I mean, yeah, since I had that interview with Burns, like we've had over 60 people apply. And, you know, we are relatively selective as well when we are introducing people to the guilds, because I just feel like, you know, it happened in New World. Okay, when you introduce like virtual land and pixels, okay, into these video games, people just forget how to act. I'm not sure what it is about these types of territory games, but it just brings out the worst in some people. So it's you kind of you're treading a fine line of like, hey, I'm looking for a very hyper competitive PvPer that is, you know, you are gonna stand up and you are gonna occasionally fight outnumbered. You know, you are looking for that challenge, and you know, it's like, yes, you can be really competitive and always want to strive for the win, but when you lose, you can't really beat yourself up too bad about it, right? You got to be able to kind of, you know, go back, rebuild, right, come up with new strategies, really kind of get the gears working, instead of, you know, taking a couple of losses, crumbling apart. You know, everyone's toxic and they're yelling at each other, they actually hate each other, and now the guild implodes, you know.
No,
I've seen it. I've seen it happen, like with like in New World. New World was the guild destroyer, dude. You would lose 1 or 2 wars, the entire guild would just disintegrate, and then everyone's scrambling to pick up the pieces, right? So
no, absolutely.
it was pretty crazy.
I can't even imagine. You know, for me, I've been a PvE Andy in WoW for so long that now kind of incorporating the whole PvX side of things, because, you know, there's a lot of PvP, but there is a mixture of PvP, territory control mixed in with the PvP aspect, right? So let's just get right into it, man. Like I really want to have this conversation already. So
me too.
Let's start the recording. Let's go into the official 1v1 episode 108 with our boy Tanner from Dopamine. All right. Starting episode in 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host Vladis, and today I have with me a very special guest. He is the GM of the infamous, known everywhere on Vera, Dopamine. He is our boy Tanner. What's going on, dude?
Not much. What's up, guys? I'm Tanner.
So we were talking in our pre-show about, you know, how you became the GM of Dopamine, like the whole transition from the Ethereum to Dopamine, and just stating, of course, that Dopamine is a brand new, fresh guild. There are, of course, people that were from Ethereum, but this isn't the Ethereum tag. That's kind of like what we were discussing a little bit. The one thing that I wanted to talk to you first about is guild reputation. How is your guild known on the server? Because it's a little mixed. There's some people who really love you, and there's some guys that really hate you. And I want to know from your perspective, like, because I think diplomatic guild relations, especially when we're trying to build nodes, whether it's certain profession stuff or, you know, just certain things that we need to have done for everybody on the server. Like, how are you when it comes to diplomacy, and how are you when it comes to how you want your guild to conduct as far as reputation goes on a server?
I mean, anyone that has genuinely interacted with me will give you like their clear opinion. Like, I am just a regular, normal guy. Like, I'm a very competitive person. I'm super respectful. Like, if I PvP you guys out in the world, it's going to be GG's in the chat afterwards. And I think that most people that have talked with me can easily recognize that I am who I am everywhere. When I'm hanging out with my friends in Discord, playing the video game, I like to really take a more like non-toxic, just respectful approach. My goal is, like, when you are a winning team and when you guys are winning, you know, you're winning fights on the server, you are a big presence on the map. People are already going to dislike you enough for that. So why keep pushing and make it worse? I think that there are definitely some bad actors that have been kind of slandering and, you know, creating all of these rumors and propaganda, and that comes back to the like virtual land territory ownership side of things. I think there's a very like large incentive to push like a narrative. So you kind of have to be really careful. Like, if you haven't really interacted with a person for yourself, I tend to not really take like an outsider's perspective of that person, because you never know what somebody's telling you could be true or not. You know, the other day I overheard someone sent me a screenshot and they said like, I'm pretty sure Tanner hates me. But I had never like spoken with that individual at all. We have had zero interaction with each other, and you know, the only thing is like, well, like where and why is this person hearing that? So I basically just encourage everyone to, you know, if you have an image of somebody, and you haven't interacted with them personally, I would encourage you to kind of reach out and to engage and see for yourself, like, what is that person's character like? You know, go look up and look at their messages in all of the Ashes Discords. Just see like how they speak, how they interact, and, you know, does it line up with some of the things that you've heard? Because, you know, with this kind of, you know, with the campaigning for territories, with, you know, other guilds trying to poach members, and it can get very it can be a pretty toxic environment. So you just have to be careful of,
Absolutely.
you know, you gotta be careful of like, you know, what kind of message and what kind of like, you know, image are you accepting from somebody when they could have bad intentions in the first place.
Right. I know Zetsway said that there was someone from my guild, mob training. You send me the name of that person, and I'll report them to our leadership. Because that's a big no. I mean, I know mob training right now, as far as threat goes, whether it's in dungeons, whether it's in the open world, is a very toxic thing to do, especially if it's to low B characters or whatever. Like, just let me know. You tell me, and I'll report it. But that's something we don't tolerate either. Like, Axiom is the kind of guild that we want to be known as, like, kind of like the beacons of the server, right? Like the stewards of the server. And again, I think with any guild, you're always going to have like bad apples that tend to like squeak their way through. And then, you know, because they have your banner on there, it makes you look bad, right? And that's any
Absolutely.
guild. That's any, it's not just, that's not a Dopamine thing. That's not an Axiom thing. That's an every guild thing.
Yeah. And then the higher like position that they have in the guild definitely makes them represent more of the guild, right? So when you see,
Absolutely.
you know, everyone's bringing in new players into their guild. Some people have, you know, slip ups as well too, and in these types of games people get pretty passionate. So yeah, like one person doesn't represent the guild, right? But it's more or less like the attitude and the like the actions of, you know, the majority will tend to kind of give a good idea of what a guild is like.
Right. And right now there's also potentially, I think within the today, tomorrow, potentially Wednesday, there's been a huge thing for phase 2, and even in phase 1, but I just want to get your opinion on this. There's a lot of the duping, a lot of the exploiting stuff, and, you know, Steven is going to be, fingers crossed, going pretty hard, and permanently,
he has to,
permanently banning accounts that are flagged, that have done this before. I just want to set the record straight. Like, what is your personal call out to your guild in regards to duping or exploiting in Ashes?
So I can say with 100% confidence that there will not be a single person in my guild that will be banned for exploiting. Steven has made it very clear, right? He has put his foot down, and he said it live on stream, that if you are finding bugs and you are abusing them, you will be punished. It is that simple. Phase 1 was a little bit of a free-for-all, okay, when it came to bug abuse and exploiting. And I really want to touch on this because I think it's really important. This is what I was looking forward to the most, actually. When I was reading that in your description, I was like, oh, thank God. So I was watching Yokai Theater's stream last night with him and Stackerton. Yeah. Very entertaining stream to get a little insight on their perspective of how things work. I think what was going on a little bit in phase 1 was, this is where the public perception kind of changed. Okay. It was 2-day testing, or 3-day testing on the weekends, right? So there was a large portion of time during this 5-day period where they were updating the game, and some bad actors, okay, were able to use the PTR as a means of like finding advantages and exploits and bugs, okay, and they were allowed to like transfer that knowledge to live servers unpunished.
Right.
And it was happening a lot, okay, between like, you know, bugging out mobs so that you're invincible, getting world bosses stuck in a rock or on top, you know, inside of a building, stacking every single weapon perk together. I mean, just a few, like the dupes. There was just so much that kind of went unpunished, and it was a little bit of a lawless zone, right? And it was like everything was a gray area, nothing was getting punished. So we had like, you know, we had people, you know, like bug abusing and exploiting left, right, and center. Nothing happened. And then one day, you know, I log in on the last day where the servers are about to go down. I think I'm in like Miraleth or something. And I log in, and this random guy that I've never seen before in my life trades me the moment I log in, and he gives me 200 gold and 4 Omen Ebons, or Ebon Omens. I'm like, oh my God. Like I'm accepting so fast, right? I'm like, what is happening? Like, who is this guy? It goes to my inventory. I jump into Discord. I'm like, oh my God, guys, come trade me. I have a mount for you, and I have all this stuff. And then they're like, oh yeah, the whole server has that. It's cooked. Everyone is duping all over the place. The towns had been like level 0. The towns had no benches, and then all these benches are going up. Everything's getting completed. I'm like, what the hell is happening? Okay. So everybody went crazy, right? Every guild in the server was going insane. Everybody was duping left, right, and center. Some people were using like alt accounts, alt characters, like, across the board. It was a disaster, and not just on Resna. It happened on every single server. So the server was completely cooked. Steven came in and said, you know what, this is, he finally put his foot down, which was really, really good. I really had wished they'd done that day 1 of phase 1 and not kind of somewhere in the middle. It would have been nice to have that very clear line of communication, because in my eyes, right, everybody was treating this like a testing environment. And I see why they went crazy. It was like, none of these exploits had been punished. And now all of a sudden, like, this dupe comes up. The dupe is being posted, a how-to dupe, step 1 through finish, in discords of places and stuff. It was just like, okay.
It's wild.
So the gloves are off, right? Like, everyone has to do this to stay competitive. Well, that in that sense, the server was resetting in a couple of weeks. It was like, okay, this is a pure testing environment. Let's go. I'm very, very happy, and I am very glad that they completely had a strong stance and said, absolutely not. You can't just like find a bug, report it, and then abuse it for however long you want. If you do this, you will get banned. And I think that's the right approach. I don't think that every exploit is equal. As of right now, I only think the only permanent bans that should go out as of right now are people that are still duping. And it has to be it can't just be a character deletion because they're trading the items wherever they're going. They have to ban the accounts that have been duping, because that is a very game integrity destroying bug and decision that you're making. You aren't just teleporting across the map. You aren't for free on death. You aren't like, you aren't accidentally you forgot to outspec your longbow and you switched to shortbow, and now you have both the weapon traits. Like, that's not really ban worthy, because there's a lot of most of these bugs and exploits, a large majority of the server is unintentionally doing them. So when it comes to specific bugs and specific issues, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, there's a little bit of gray area. But if you ask somebody with an outside perspective looking in, it's like, yes, that is obviously wrong. It feels bad while you're doing it. You shouldn't be doing it. It's pretty obvious, right? Like some of the key exploits right now that we talk about a little bit, but it's like, these things should get fixed, but you shouldn't really be participating in them, right? It's like using elevation to be immune to mob damage. This is obviously a pretty big exploit. Okay, we have things like clerics dropping guilds so that they can heal outside of the caravan or the war event. They're rezzing, they're healing, they're untouched. You have to go corrupted to stop them. It's wrong, right? So it's like, these are the things that are like, okay, is it worth a ban? No, it's not worth a ban. It might be worth not like a permanent ban. It might be worth a week ban, or it might be worth having a strike on the account, or something along the lines of hey, this is wrong. You shouldn't be doing it. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you are currently pushing the boundaries and you are just trying to get an unfair advantage here, you're going to continue to do it later, and you're going to continue to do it when the game actually does come out. And I feel like it's just a very slippery slope to play with. So as of right now, right, and ever since that message came out where it's like, okay, this is a testing environment, but the integrity of the servers matter because everybody is on this server. If the dad that comes home from work and he gets maybe 1 or 2 hours a night, maybe someone gets 3 hours to play on the weekend, if the server ever has to get rolled back because of the actions of other players, I think that is when you have to just start removing the people that are repeat offenders and they just cannot physically control themselves to play the game at the same advantage as everybody else.
Whew, that was a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
So, so your stance is permanently ban the dupers, but
Yeah.
not so much exploiting.
Well, it depends. Just because I feel like, yeah, not every exploit is the same. And like, do I think someone deserves to be permanently banned for like, let's just say like killing themselves in water to teleport back to their home? Mm-hmm. Is that a permanent ban worthy exploit? No, it's not. Because a lot of people are just doing that without even realizing it too. How many people do you think want to travel? Well, there's no mobs around. They see a lake.
But do you think that also causes, it's almost like a toddler trying to get away with as much as they can before they get spanked, right? Like
yeah, that's what's happening now.
If there isn't like sort of like a zero tolerance, then people will always tend to keep pushing the boundary. You know what I mean? And that's sort of like what I have with exploiting. Like, we all know that there's certain things that, you know, I sort of agree with you when it comes to exploiting. But my thing is that Steven made it very clear on all grounds, on all of these grounds. And again, I think it's really up to the company if they want to permanently ban. But in my opinion, you know, if you're using like the vertical invincibility to push to 25, and you and your whole group of people are doing that to rush level to 25, like, and that's something you didn't do once, you didn't do for one group session, not 2 group sessions, but 15 group sessions. Like, to me, that's something that should qualify as like a permanent ban, in my opinion, because you were already told not to do these things.
So the only reason why I bring up like some exploits are different than others is I completely agree with you. I think that, yeah, across the board, you should not be participating in any exploit whatsoever. I think some exploits, like the less impactful ones, are done unintentionally by a lot of players. So to say like, you know, zero tolerance, you know, some guy isn't following the Discord, and let's just say, for example, some guy is walking, he's leveling his character, okay, and he levels and he maxes out Greatsword, okay, and he chooses all of his perks in Greatsword, and then he switches to, a mace. Well, now he permanently has all of those Greatsword perks. And when he hits someone, he's going to add an extra combo finisher and all of this stuff, okay? So should that individual be permanently banned? I do not think so at all. Mm-hmm. I think that something when it comes to like, you know, the elevation exploits where you are a repeat offender, yes, probably a ban. Okay, a permanent ban, maybe like a 7-day ban and all of the characters get deleted on the account, or something along those lines of like, you know, yes, it's bad. Does it really ruin the integrity of the game server? A little bit, because they get to level 25 faster. They can start, you know, they can start farming for gold. They can really snowball and get ahead. But at the end of the day, you're right. It's completely up to the developer and the developer team. They have made their stance super clear. I would be all for anything that they decide to choose. Like, and that is it. I do really, it's hard for them because they are, you know, rolling into this live service. Mm-hmm. They are, you know, this is probably their first live service game. And they're developing it at the same time. There's just so much on their plate that you can't really police everything. Right. And I think that as long as they have a very, very heavy-handed stance on, you know, something that they brought up in the past, like the duping, and yeah, even the elevation exploiting, like they changed the bears at Steelbloom for a reason. They do not, you know, it's very obvious that they want us boots on the ground fighting these mobs in good faith. Right. And there is no doubt about that. Exactly. You know when you're doing something wrong. You know, 99% physical mitigation. Come on. Well, it's like. But
that's what I mean. That, you know, if we're talking competitiveness, right? I mean, there's so many guilds on the server that are being competitive. So again, I'm not saying I guess when I said zero tolerance, I know you probably meant that across the board, but I kind of meant zero tolerance to like the really egregious exploits, like to be completely invulnerable, like as a tank because you're like caught in some elevation. That to me is like, and again, if you did it once to be like, oh shit, I can't believe that happened, like, and then you don't do it again, like you shouldn't be permanently banned for like unintentionally knowing that you were doing that. But when you know you're intentionally doing it, when that becomes the method of leveling the entire time until 25, and that's what I'm saying, you're playing the game disingenuously, and that also causes every single competitive player for that to become the meta, especially if the company is going to be lax on it. If you want to grind a 25 or as fast as possible in Ashes creation, you do it in this fashion, and that's what I don't like, because that's not the way you're supposed to play.
And someone in chat said that they don't really agree with bans at all. I would definitely disagree with that. Think of a scenario like this, right? Not every dupe is actually found. And I'm sure there's a lot of people right now that have a dupe or they have some kind of really game-breaking bug that people are benefiting from right now. So if you do not remove these people that are constantly exploiting the game with item creation and stuff like that, you're not always going to find it. Okay. And these people, if they don't get banned, they're going to continue doing it because there is no punishment. So yeah, okay, eventually we may, oh man, there's a bug, there's a dupe that we found that people have been abusing for 4 months, right? It's like, it's those things where you have to address the people doing it now, because they're just going to continue to do it if you don't get rid of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's just a lot of I think we can have a whole episode just talking about the duping and exploiting drama, and I'm really curious to see what Steven is going to do specifically, because in my mind, because of how competitive and how long we've, as an Ashes community, I mean, the majority of people probably have been waiting for like 4 years, because I think the Lazy Peon video in 2020 brought a lot of us into the Ashes community, but there's some people that have been waiting since 2017, 2018, you know what I mean? And there's people that have been creating these guilds without a game. We've had guilds with no game, so that's pretty passionate people. And that's all I'm saying, is that you need to put people in place, and there isn't a gaming company right now that is permanently banning players. Everybody's just getting suspended. So when they come back, you're right, they do exactly what they were doing before, because I'm just gonna get a slap on the wrist. Why am I gonna, just going to continue doing what I'm doing, because they'll probably find my account again, but it'll probably be too late by then. You know what I mean? That's how most of these AAA companies operate. And I want Intrepid to be different. I want people to fear what Intrepid might do to their account. And like, I want every single action, when they think that they can do something shady, they kind of think twice and are like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Because again, Intrepid
the precedent
is
needs to. I think it's really important that it happens sooner than later, because of how rocky and shaky the phase 1 start was.
Yes.
Like it was bad. It was bad. Everybody was trying to find the next new thing. It was like everyone's trying to find, okay, bears are fixed. Where can I go? Where's another fastest way to level? Where can I grab 10 more mobs and not get hit? Like, when that is the first reaction from some members of the community, it's a lawless zone. Right. And that behavior will just bleed into the future state if it's not addressed. Yeah. So I think like a lot of people are really outraged and upset about this type of behavior, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's going to ruin the game. Right. That, like, if you are playing the game and you are putting in hours and hours and hours and hours, and other people get an unfair advantage just because they have some like hidden knowledge that isn't intended, I feel like it's like a disingenuous way to play the game. You're pretending as if like, that you that you are playing the game legitimate. And I mean, I'm not to say that, like, you know, I'm not going to call anybody out or say that these people are bad people in any way, because that's not what that's not what it is, right? But you are using an unfair advantage over everybody else in the game. So it just kind of sucks from a perspective of, like, you know, the guy who doesn't get a lot of time to play comes on, he's playing the game legitimate, and then he's never going to catch up, and he's like, oh my god, people are already level 25, they already have full gear sets that are enchanted, and it's like, that's really going to deter a lot of people away if that is like the meta, and that is the way to level, and that is the way to progress your character.
No, for sure. I mean, I think, do you remember when Steven, did you know that Steven's been streaming on Twitch lately?
I have, actually. Yeah, okay. I've been tuning in.
Okay. So he kind of went over some statistics, and there's more statistics that Intrepid has. And, you know, for people to be like, oh, well, there's like an argument that says, well, we need exploiters, because if we just ban all the exploiters, people aren't going to find them. Bro, that is the most, I don't know. I think that's just a very bad take. Just to be totally, it's a really bad take, because not only do they have 2 professional testing houses, one in Europe, one in Mexico, there's a lot of really good players that do find these exploits and report them. And again, every single group in every single area of grind is reported on the back end. And so if you see, you know, and there's also outliers in their data, if they see that, wow, this person leveled from 19 to 25 without taking a single lick of damage, how did that happen? They're gonna, they know, they see anomalies in their thing. Like if they're grinding for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and this tank is taking no damage whatsoever, they're gonna figure out, like, what's going on. Like, this tank what is he doing to take no damage for 8 hours plus? You know,
who was in their party the entire time, you know, their exact location. Like that's the thing, is I feel like people are taking advantage currently of how busy the team at Intrepid actually is. But all of the data is there. I mean, you have item IDs when you're duplicating item, like all of that data is there. And I really hope, like this kind of little in between time right now of the downtime and addressing what's been going on so far in this phase, I think is going to be a really pivotal moment for a lot of people. With their, like, you know, and it may be unfair, it might be unfair to say this, but a lot of people really are, like, looking at this, like, how is this scenario going to be resolved? Like, is this going to be something that I want to invest my time into, or, you know, or and again, the reason why I'm saying it's a bit unfair is because it is a testing environment, right? It is an alpha. The game isn't currently finished, and so it's not really super fair to judge them on this. But I think, like, as unfair as it is, public opinion is very unfair. And
always
in these scenarios, like, I do not envy Steven and his team right now. Like,
I do not either.
They have you know, this is a big moment for a lot of people currently playing, and I just really love the game, and I want to see it succeed. So I've been trying to be, like, a positive force in this community, and I really hope that they, you know, they make the right decisions, is basically all I have to say there.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you a selfish question. If I run a caravan to the tropics, are you going to jump me? Because I'm really scared right now to run a caravan, because Dopamine has been really rampantly killing caravans.
Yeah.
I'm just scared.
I think I mean, probably. I mean, I would probably attack you, but it's nothing personal, right? So the way that I look at it is, like, there is, like, that's the only real content in the game right now, is, like, gathering things, hitting rocks and gathering herbs, and it is hitting caravans. That's kind of the only real, like, content loop. Yeah, we can declare war, but war is a little bit, like, you know, finicky.
That's actually one of the bigger questions, because that was like a short question for sure. But I mean, I think war decking has been a really contentious issue in the game right now, and
probably one of the worst ones.
Can you give me, for someone as competitive as Dopamine, like as you guys are, like, what is your take on war decking? how would you want it to be approached in the game? Because there's just so many opinions right now on war decking.
Yeah, so I think war decking should only be available during like peak server time. And I don't think it should be instant. I think like if you pop a war deck, let's just say like for NA, everything is NA central, right? So, or I believe, right? NA is central servers.
Yeah.
So we'll say it like this, right? So I think that depending on the two war decks, okay, you could do two, right? You have the small one and the large one. I think how it should work is you should pop a war deck, and you have to pop the war deck before the peak time. So we'll just set it at like 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Okay. And during that time, that's the only time that war can happen on the server. So if you have a small war, it's from 7 to 9. If you have a large war, it's from 7 to 11 or until points hit cap. Okay. And in that window, you can only deck any other guild one time, but you could throw out a bunch of decks if you wanted to. Right. So if I wanted to deck an entire alliance, I could have each of my guilds, deck the alliance. But war rewards, no matter how many decks that you put out, cap at like 2 a day, and that resets every day. I think that's probably going to be like an end game scenario. We tried to do some wars early on, like when the rewards were still active. They had said, hey, we fixed the war rewards. You get mail again. Let's try it. We popped a war deck. We popped another war deck, and then the score was 0-0 on the one. And the first war went into a different location. We couldn't like chop trees in that location. And it was like, okay, this is clearly bugged. We're not gonna do this anymore. Well, we are just gonna kind of, see what happens. Like it just felt off. So we immediately called it off, and we just said, okay, we're not gonna do this. Right. And I think that it's very like, to me, it's pretty obvious that when systems like aren't working correctly, it's. But that's just my perspective, and I could have bias there, but I feel
it's frustrating. I mean, but testing in general is frustrating. I think people expect every system to be so polished at this point, and it's like, bro, we're only a couple of months into Alpha 2. You know what I mean? We've been testing since October. This is month 4. And people are expecting every single system to be so fleshed out, and and it's like, oh, this bug is so frustrating, or this system is so frustrating. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, and I think there's also this mentality where people are wanting to play a game and not wanting to participate in the test. And it's frustrating for someone like me, because like I'm trying to do both. Like there is a game that I'm playing, but there's also like bug reports, and like I was doing treasure hunting yesterday, and there was like a couple of pretty big bugs that I discovered, and I tried to leave, and I ended up setting some stuff to plan in just to make sure. And it's just very I would say frustrating for me, because I just want people to understand that this game needs time to cook. And as passionate as you are to want every system fleshed out, there's still many problems with caravans. I know I said that jokingly, but there is still a lot of things they need to flesh out with the caravan system.
Oh yeah.
And again, having groups that are very competitive, like Dopamine, like a Barcode, like Axiom, we are going to find these kind of like a cleric just being not in the guild, and they can just stand there, they can heal, they can do this and they can do that. Like what's the issue there? Like many people believe that having a 24-hour cooldown on joining a guild is too short, that they should have a longer period of time. There are some people who believe that the creating the siege to do a war deck is way too cheap. It needs to be way more expensive, and that will cause people to be more strategic in their war decking rather than just so like willy-nilly. And I might agree with that. I think maybe if we can actually up the materials or up the cost of buying these war decks, that could cause some guilds to be like, oh, we don't want to just arbitrarily just war deck this person. And especially if they do rewards, that kind of needs to be balanced, right? So
yeah, I think there's just a couple of pieces that need to just be placed on some, like everything is kind of put in the game at a very surface level to make sure that it works, right, at a base level, and that people actually want it. So I think a lot of like the testing right now comes down to good faith,
right?
And I think that is the biggest problem, is because how many people do we have? 100,000 in the alpha.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a lot of bad actors that are going to constantly push the boundaries.
Oh yeah.
You know, like they've already said that war is only really intended to be during peak server hours.
Right.
And I don't think it would come as a surprise to anybody if there was a cap on the amount of rewards or mail rewards that you could get from war. I mean, you know, like there's like, in my opinion, like that was one of the biggest issues that people were having, was with how like powerful the war rewards actually were.
Absolutely.
That if you know that you can recognize like, wow, that's, you know, very strong. And then on a system that, you know, it in my opinion wasn't working. Sometimes like when the war deck goes out and it's the score is 0-0 for the whole day, or when the war location is across the map of where it should be, it's like, okay, you know, system's kind of bugged. We're going to use this to PvP against, you know, other guilds, but, you know, let's not go super crazy because this seems like something's off here.
Right. And in your opinion, since I know you've been doing a lot of PvP, I personally have not been engaging in a lot of the PvP stuff as of right now. There's still a lot of the gamey stuff that I'm trying to test and figure out. What do you feel are some of the major standouts, problems, issues, things that you've encountered, little one-offs here and there, maybe some class stuff, flagging?
Sure.
Is there any big things that you feel like you've discovered?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me this. I think it would be much better. So something on the flagging, I have like probably 5 things here, so I'll go one at a time. One of the flagging issues that I do see being an issue is entering and leaving combatant zones, instantly flagging, instantly unflagging. I think that like when you're flagged, there should be a timer that starts counting downwards that you can see on the character of when they are going to unflag, because people are corruption baiting. They're attacking you. Oh, right before you die, they step out of the zone and then they instantly go non-combatant, and then you kill them and then you're corrupted. I think
and
that
this is specifically
right now,
in the tropics in the desert that this is happening.
Yeah, like where you can go in and out of the zone. Like you can just like, I can put my foot in and I go purple combatant, and then the moment that I step out, I instantly go white non-combatant. Okay, so they're like even if like they're standing there, they're purple, they walk out, bam, just as you kill them, right? It happens a lot too. Like when someone is purple, like you don't know, can I kill this person? Can I attack them? When was the last time they auto attacked? It's a disaster, it's a mess. And then bam, they kill that person just as they switch to non-combatant. And then it's like complicated and confusing. There needs to be like an icon on the character, whereas if they hit somebody, you see their timer go down from 1 minute. So it's like, oh, this guy's combatant for 30 more seconds, we can fight him, or you know what I mean? It just needs to be more clear in that sense.
Well, I personally, just to kind of from my personal take, I completely agree with you. I think whenever you initiate combatant status, I think even when you initiate combatant status, I think there should be probably like, it can be instant for sure, but if you go and want to be non-combatant anymore, you probably need like I would say like a 5-minute debuff timer personally, because I think being a combatant should be a choice, and being willy-nilly with it is just, I'm personally not a fan of that. I think if you want to unflag yourself, there needs to be like a 5-minute timer for it to go off. I can settle for 3, like a 3-minute timer, but I mean, I think it does need to be a strategic choice, because this also plays into territory control for a grind spot or whatever, and people just willy-nilly, popping in and out of combatant status. It's just really egregious, and you don't even have time to really fight, because it's like the fight happens and then they're already back to non-combatant status, and it's just like, this is stupid. You know what I mean? So it's like that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to get to. Is that's why I want it to be at least 5 minutes, because it'll allow for more strategy and strategic stuff if you really do want to take a grind spot. But anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a good perspective. It's nice, right? Because we both definitely have a different perspective on a lot of things when it comes to PvE, PvP. I think like the number can be adjusted to, can be tested in different ways, see how 1, 2, 3 minute works. I think that just to clear up the system and to make it flow and to make it make more sense, there just needs to be like a timer that counts down. It could be 3 minutes and like, 3M, 2M, and then 6 60 seconds starts counting down, just so you can see how long can I actually fight this person? Can I fight them without going corrupt? It just needs to be a bit more clear. Some other real issues with PvP are, I'll address we went over it a bunch of times. I think that participating in events without an event like selection is definitely a huge problem, right? Like the clerics healing out of caravan events, healing out of war. It's a huge problem. I don't know what it would be. The one thing that I can think of is that like the cleric would just not be able to interact with somebody that's currently in a war. It would show them in war status. And if they put the war window in between 7 and 11, and you have to pop that war deck, or you have to pop the node siege or whatever the event is before the time, if 7 o'clock hits and there's no war declared on you guys, it's fine. You can finish all your content. You can do whatever you want for the rest of the day. But that's like a really big issue, just because it's like they're invincible. And if you want to stop that person, you have to either go to combatant status, which lets everybody else attack you, or you have to go corrupt to kill that person, go corrupt, and then you potentially lose gear.
To me, a very easy fix on that, and maybe people might disagree, is that if I'm a cleric and someone is actively participating in an event, it can be a world event, it can be a caravan event, it could be, just a PvP event. If I, and especially if they're not in my party, if I try to heal someone not in my party at all, of course, because if I was in their party, I would be participating in the event. But if I'm not in their party, it should just not go off, or it should just be red and saying I can't do that. And it's like, this person is activated in this PvP event. Hit accept, and then now you can heal this person, basically, right? So you got to.
I agree.
Yeah, you got to be able to participate.
I strongly agree.
Yeah.
Yep, except in the scenario where there's like a war, you know what I mean? Like that, you wouldn't be able to join the war, like a guild war or something like that. But caravan out of events, you should not be able to heal somebody in an event unless you join up on their side.
Right.
So that's a really, really big one. Something else with PvP too is, there is like a very specific interaction that happens with Bard that I think is just extremely overtuned and unintended. It's a very specific interaction with the resonance stacking and shocked.
This was in the
and
PvP
the
event.
wand. Yeah, it's like it's only one specific weapon can claim all of those stacks. It's like 39 stacks of shocked is 1,000% magic power scaling alone. And a support class should not be able to burst you for 4k damage in 1 second.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how no amount of mental gymnastics will convince me otherwise.
For sure. There's going to be some nerfs to Bard. Yeah, for sure.
Well, they're not even really nerfs to Bard, just that one specific interaction, right? Like, the wand combo finisher can claim every stack, right? And it just like you see the number just fly up. It's a little bit, it's like it's small things like that, but that is a whatever type thing. Right. Other than that, I do feel like the server stability in large-scale PvP really suffers sometimes if they haven't restarted the server. The moment you get 100 players, 120 players together in an area, it feels like the server runs at like 10 FPS.
Do you think the render distance has been better since phase 1?
Sometimes it's been incredible. Sometimes it's been very poor. I think the longer the servers are unreset, the worse and worse it gets. I also think that people running around bugging out mobs left, right, and center are not helping at all. Like Carfin is a disaster 99% of the time. Like you go there at server reset and you see these same people running these mobs out of the tower, getting them stuck in the walls. Like it's like,
a lot of work still needs to be done there. 100%.
Yeah, but it's like, is that what they do every morning at 5 a.m.? They wake up, they go to the tower, they pull these mobs all over the place. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I feel that still needs, there was a person in chat right there was like line of sight needs to be fixed for PvP. Is there line of sight still? Is there that line of sight issue still for PvP? Like where you can actually target people that aren't in your line of sight? I thought that was fixed.
Yeah, I would expand on that because I'm not sure of what that is. I've never had any line of sight issues.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to PvP, there is a lot that still needs to be done. And I know because there's a huge audience, you know, in the Ashes community that are heavy PvPers, right? So it's like when you're trying to do something that you love and you're passionate about doing, and you're encountering these, like, you know, these things that are just like stupid, you're just like, oh my God, this game would be so much better if this was fixed, or if this was done, or this is I'm personally really excited for this year. I think 2025 is going to be a very transformative year for Ashes of Creation. I mean, we're still not done, but I think this is going to feel like a completely different monster of a game. If we have another conversation, let's say January 13th of 2026, you know what I mean? And me and you can talk about the evolution of this year, how Dopamine has evolved, or how the server has evolved. But I think people are just a little... like, they need to just chill. You know what I mean? Like, if we're passionate about this game and we're wanting to let the devs cook, like, let them cook, let them work on these things, and bring it to the attention of them. Go to the forums, you know what I mean? Go put in your bug reports, you know. Like, I guess the good thing, you know, for me having like a platform in this space is, you know, I have, you know, people from Intrepid that watch my content, you know what I mean? They're probably watching right now, and they're hearing all of your feedback, Tanner, and they're probably like jotting it down, or, you know, keeping it mentally and noted, or even probably thinking to themselves, yeah, actually we have that in our list of stuff to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, they need time. There's like a critical list.
I have some really cool ideas about Summoner too that I want to share.
Oh yes, I'm a Warlock main in WoW. I love Warlock. So please, let's talk about Summoner. Go for it.
Okay, so the one thing that most people do not like about a minion class, is minion bloat. And this comes from like people that are, you know, not playing the class themselves. Everyone loves the class fantasy of raising, you know, 10 monsters and 10 minions. That gets really taxing visually and server wide. I think that it would be really, really beneficial to have like one interactable, controllable summon. And like, let's control that, you know, be able to have full control of that summon, like go here, patrol this area if that's what you need it to do, have all of its abilities, have one like main summon, and then all of your other abilities are flavored as summons. Okay, so
or
you
even
have like
summons. Like I'm a fan of that too. Like, it's like this summon, so, like two skeletons come out for 10 seconds and fight, and then they just fall apart.
Yes, we can also do it in a really interesting way visually, right? So let's just say like the summoner AOE. Okay, it would be targeted like Hoarfrost or something, right? So your AOE burst, it would be like Imp Storm, where you cast the spell, and then at the location you see like a couple of portals pop up. Imps just come in and throw a fireball all at the center of it, and then they fly out back into their portal, you know? So you can flavor the abilities in a way where you're summoning creatures and you're summoning monsters and elements to do these things for you, right? As opposed to having like a super taxing experience on the server. It's hard to click on a summoner when there's 15 things around him all the time, you know? And another example of that would be like, you know, Mage's Blink. Let's just say Summoner had a blink, it would be like Worm Tunnel or something. Like he would click his blink button, and you'd see like this worm monster eat him, and then it would tunnel underground and spit him up wherever he chose to teleport to. So it's not like an interactable monster. It's just like a visual that shows he's like summoning something. And so it can really play like into the class fantasy while not being extremely taxing on like the players that are engaging against them. And it like kind of fulfills, you know, the like that would be my dream summoner. Right. I would still be a mage. But I just think that would be super, super cool for the people that want to play summoner.
I mean, as someone who's excited to see what Intrepid is going to do with the summoner class, I you know, I just got the Graveyard Golem from Steven recently.
Oh, dude, I seen you in town. I was like, what the hell, dude?
Dude, everybody.
Vladis's Graveyard Golem. I'm like, what, dude? What is going on here?
Dude, it was such a great day. That day was awesome. But I've had so many whispers, like everybody just be like, how much gold? I'll give you my account, you know, everything for this amount. And I'm just like, bro, there's nothing you have that I can give it. But imagine this, Tanner. Imagine as like a necromancer, your main summon is a Graveyard Golem.
Ooh.
And imagine
Yeah,
if like one of its abilities, like for AoE, was the graveyard golem like charges to the thing, freaking bear hugs them, and then skeletons pop out of the graveyard golem and just start like hammering at the target.
Yeah,
Like, there could be some really cool shit. Like, oh my god.
If you have one summon, right?
Yeah.
That summon can be strong. It can be badass. It can fulfill temporary roles of your party. Okay, so think of something like this way, right? Your tank goes down and you die. As a summoner, you can expend like maybe like a 2-minute cooldown for an instant summon, where you can summon a temporary tank for your party so that you guys don't wipe. Or your cleric goes down and you have no cleric. Maybe depending on how strong this would be, you may be able to summon a temporary summon that can get a res off on a really long cooldown, right? It would be really interesting to see the summoner like versatile to where you can have summons do different things and kind of fill in these roles where your party is lacking in certain ways. Like that would be super cool too, because what separates the summoner from the mage? I personally would think like versatility and control of like one really badass summon.
Right. And I think also too, the thing that scares me with the summoner is the jack of all trades approach. And when you say jack of all trades, it's like you're everything, but you're the master of none. And in my mind, that just means kind of mediocre. Like everything, but everything at a very mediocre level, like at an average level. And I don't want like me or a summoner to be like average. Like I think honestly what they need to do is stray away from that mindset and just make them a support, like a bard, but they support the group differently than a bard. You know what I'm trying to say? Because a bard supports the group with like, some heals, mana battery, speed utility or whatever. But a summoner can support the group with just like what you said. They can actually be a spot reser. Like they can put out a temporary summon, a long thing that reses people. They can put out their main summon as a defensive tank for 3 minutes, or something like that, right? Like if they need to, with like a pretty good cooldown. So like they can do very transformative, like super niche things that are very beneficial when it calls for it, and I think that is what I would want summoners to fill in. I just don't want them to be this like, oh well, they can tank but it's like super bad, it's like you'd rather just have a tank do it. Oh well, they can heal but you just rather would have a cleric, you know what I mean? Like I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be like the cleric would still be healing, but if the cleric is having a problem and you are a summoner cleric, then you can actually like do something very transformative for a healing thing. And it's not, you can't do it very often. Like I said, it could be a longer cooldown, but it could be very transformative in that moment.
And imagine too, when you start getting into subclassing, I could see them taking a very like jack of all trades approach at first on the base summoner to give you a little taste of every aspect. But then once you spec into like summoner cleric, all of a sudden this like healing summon, like this angel that you summon, is now permanent. Right? Oh, all of a sudden you want to be summoner tank? Well, now this graveyard golem that you summon is permanent, right? Yeah. So I feel like that it has the most potential of flexibility because you're a summoner. You can summon whatever the task needs. That's the class I'm most excited to see implemented because it's definitely a tough one.
So, speaking on classes real quick, the patch notes for the PTR today just came out.
Yeah.
And
really?
Yeah. And nerfs there was nerfs to the mage. So
probably a good thing.
Let me just read off some of the. This is true. Like I'm sure there's people.
Let me guess. Can I guess one? But I haven't seen them at all. I'm gonna guess.
Sure,
okay.
Sure.
Shatter has been reduced to 200% damage scaling.
No, Shatter isn't even on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not even on here.
What they change?
So and these may not be nerfs. I mean, I don't know Mage too well, so you'll tell me if it's a nerf or not. Mage or ball lightning hit frequency has been reduced by 50%. Magna field damage per tick has been increased by 20%. Let me see.
That's a buff, but still not enough. I don't think I would ever use it.
Okay. Shell duration has been reduced from 15 seconds to 8 seconds.
Ooh, that's a big nerf. That's good though.
Okay.
Ooh, That's interesting. Because that's a very good change. And I feel like all shield abilities should be less than 10 seconds.
Okay. And then we have Prismatic Beam, the fire empowerment, reduce the burn damage from 100% to 25% per tick application, but increased burn apply chance from 33% to 100%.
Ooh.
So I don't know if that's like a net neutral.
That one is probably better for consistency.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also Prismatic Beam Ice empowerment, reduces the duration of chill from 6 seconds to 1 second per tick application, but increases.
You're never. Sorry, go ahead.
But it increases the chill apply chance from 33% to 100%.
You're never really gonna beam in ice. It's super niche. I like the change though. I don't like RNG chance stuff. And
then there's
25%, 30%. I don't like that.
Then there's the Beam Lightning or Prismatic Beam Lightning empowerment, reduces the volatile debuff duration from 6 seconds to 1.5 seconds per tick application.
Ooh, that's a big nerf, but the target you're hitting should already have volatile on it before your beam comes out anyway. But then they also nerfed ball lightning. Okay, so yeah, there's that's a overall across the board. Those are pretty. Well, they are nerfs.
I'm not done.
Okay, let's go.
So then we have Arcane Circle, reduced duration from 15 seconds to 10 seconds. Reduce the cooldown from 90 seconds to 60 seconds. Bonus damage has been reduced from 30% to 20%.
That's a buff. That's a buff for PvE, and it's a buff for PvP.
Okay. And then this is actually a buff. Chain Lightning increased damage by 30%. Aftershocks passive damage, a bonus has been reduced to offset this increase. Aftershock now triggers for half of the original damage down from full.
But does it work? Aftershock has not worked forever.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't play
if they fix it, that's big. That's big for Chain Lightning.
And then the last thing is Chain Lightning, Arcane Circle, and Ball Lightning have updated visual effects.
Very cool.
Yeah, and the only other thing I just wanted to say, because I've been playing Ranger lately, Scatter Shot's charge projectile will now follow the ground to improve its hit reliability on uneven terrain. Bro, that's a
change. Yeah. God, I'm a little bit heartbroken that there was no accelerated blink now. Gets you out of disables, but maybe that'll come.
Well, I mean, I was really expecting Shatter to be nerfed personally, but I mean,
I think Shatter. I mean, I'm hitting people with my Shatter for way too much damage. It's just a free passive that I can proc every 4 seconds. You can double Shatter basically on every single combo.
What's the highest crit? I mean, what's your gear like? Let me ask you that first. Are you
my gear? I'm pretty geared. Okay. No, higher. I'm like level 10. I have a bunch of level 10 gear that is like heroic, 2 pieces of legendary, and like most of my gear is, most of my like armor pieces are heroic. Only my helmet's legendary, and then I have like rare rings. I have rare rings, and then I have like epic earrings. So my crafting team has been going really crazy. We've been like, I did a very big push on like every single person in the guild. Like if you aren't like a primary crafter, you're a gatherer, right? Like the gear is so important. Like I've been running around picking flowers, dude, for the past like
me too
4 days.
You've been stealing my big blooms.
Yeah, the bluebells, buddy. Look out! Catch a slumber in the yard out there. It's like so it's the gear is really important. My magic power right now is probably like 375 unbuffed. So it's pretty like, yeah, it's big. I have pretty good gear.
What's the highest crit you've done on a player?
I think with the Shatter, I think my Shatter crit for like 3.1k on just the Shatter. Yeah, it's like something.
That's crazy. And
you want to make sure that you have like magic pen as your weapon trait. You know what I mean? Like on your scepter or on your greatsword. And that's really going to help you, and then make sure that they have volatile on them. And then when you have that, then you can go, then you get your combo. But the combo it just kind of happens on its own, right? Because you Hoarfrost Cone, and then the moment that you Ball Lightning, it applies the volatile, it hits the shatter. Right. It's like a big combo.
So
it's too much. Too much. Time to kill is way too low.
Well, and so we're watching Zybak's video, and he kind of recommends like a 50%, because he's in dopamine, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
our boy Zybak. Yeah, and so what do you think about that? Do you think there needs to be? Because honestly, I don't think that's enough. Because if you do a 50% damage dampening, which I do agree with, you also need at least a 25% healing dampening for PvP as well. Because clerics and bards would just be even more overpowered then. Yeah, if you leave it.
I mean, I'm pretty lenient when it comes to like the numbers game. It's very obvious that the scaling is way too high. It's like I'm wearing level 10 gear right now. And I have 32% pen. I have like high crit. I've got it's like I'm really strong in level 10 gear. What's that going to look like at level 20? What's that going to look like at level 30, 40? Exactly. It's like the scaling is way too high, but that's all the number adjustment later. Like they'll fix that. Yeah, I should not be one-shotting everybody that I catch in a freeze. Basically, you do your mage combo. And unless you have a cleric and a bard in a position to help them, you do way too much damage.
I'm sorry, I just put the patch notes for people. I'm sorry if people were like, "Where's the patch notes?" There they are, right there. But yeah, no, I think everything when it comes to numbers, like I'm not really too worried about. That's why even people were like, "Man, mage needs to be nerfed. Mage needs to be nerfed." I'm like, I wasn't really too worried. I was like, let them be overpowered for a little bit. It's fine. I was like, it'll literally it'll be gone. You know what I mean? Like there'll be some patch that'll put a pass in. I've been playing the Ranger recently, but I love Fighter. I think Fighter is a really great class, but basically right now in mass scale PvP, you're just using them basically as kamikazes. You're going to go out into the group of people to like maybe whirlwind them or do like a cataclysm and then just heroically bout and try to like be at ranged, so fighters still have some work. I mean, I think and that's why I don't understand why people want to play rogue, because rogues are going to be just as squishy as a mage probably. So it's gonna be worse. No, it's just gonna be worse. Like, I don't know.
I think the problem with Fighter is people are trying to play it like they would play Fighter in other games. Fighters, in my opinion, have a really good toolkit to isolate individuals on like outside of the fight. Like there's a lot of instant abilities that fighters have where they can remove people from the fight and then they are just a +1 anywhere else. Right. So I think like that is a massive advantage. Like if I want to slumber somebody, I have to cast it for like 1.5 seconds or whatever. If the fighter wants to put somebody to sleep, he just has to punch them in the side of the head, and then he's off somewhere else. So that alone, I think, is a huge like advantage that they have. But again, like with large scale, sometimes being sometimes being slow and the server can't really keep up. It's too hard to play fighter in those scenarios, because to play fighter you got to have hands, dude. You got to be good. Like you got to be in and out. It's a very technical class. You can't afford to make a lot of mistakes. And then now all of a sudden, people are standing still. You don't know what's happening. Half your health is gone. It can be messy.
It's a lot. I mean, I think I need a lot of work on the fighter. Just speaking my own part, I have a lot of work to do, because I guess for right now, like I just trying to do a lot of the gaming stuff, and I haven't really, like, I know the fighter, like when it comes to a PvE doing damage and everything like that, but like the PvP side yet of the fighter, I don't know. Like I haven't really done a lot of PvP because it's just not my focus. There's other people that's their primary focus, and there's so much PvP happening right now. There's so much data, there's so much feedback that people are leaving for PvP. So I'm like, you know what? That's not my forte, or that's not my area of expertise as of the moment, but I will get into PvP for sure. There's just other things that I'm more passionate about.
get some reps in, dude. The best way to learn your class is to just 1v1 the exact same class.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's how you can, I find that a 1v1 against like in a mirror match, it's really hard to like mask any kind of mechanical mistake that you're making because you're fighting the same exact class, right? If someone is consistently beating you and they're doing more damage than you, or they're setting up in a better way, it's like it's hard to say, oh, that class counters me, or insert this or that, right? It's all out there, it's all in the open, right? And you have that mirror match, and then you can kind of see in what areas that you're lacking, and you just find you find someone who is going to be there to actually want to duel you with good intentions and help you get better. And if you just find people like that, then that's
maybe I'll do it
in no time.
Whenever they put dueling in the game, like if they
I can't wait.
Once they put dueling in the game, I will do all of that. I will do it all day.
The day that they put dueling in the game, where you can right click duel, you don't die, you just go to 1 health, and then
just bow down.
Like that. Oh my god! Please, Steven, if you're listening.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot, man. I mean, but we're already at our hour. Is there anything you want to discuss in the episode before we go into our post show, or?
No, nothing really. I just want to say that like overall, Ashes has kind of exceeded my expectations when it came to an alpha. I think Intrepid is doing a really good job. And more people do need to be lenient with them in understanding like this is probably their first live service game. They are trying to, they're trying to develop these systems. They're all hands, on board, trying to improve what we have. And people are just, negative. They're losing their minds on Reddit. They're hypercritical over things that are just in a very bare bones testing environment. Mm-hmm. So I think that, if you are not having fun, take a break. Mm-hmm. And I know he said it 100 times, but it just needs to be reiterated and reinforced because people are playing this as if it is a live service, fully released game.
Right.
And that's where a lot of this, passion and emotion is coming from. Is it's like, listen, like we are here to test the game and we can enjoy it while we're doing that, but let's not take it overboard. And if you're having fun, continue playing, but if you are miserable, just step away.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Tanner, dude, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about all things Ashes of Creation, all things Dopamine, and where can people find Dopamine if they want to check out
you can find Dopamine, discord.gg/dopaminegg.
Sweet.
I have a Twitch channel that I never stream on, so I'll avoid that for now. Maybe next year, if I start that back up, I'll plug it. But
all right, dude. Well, let's go into the post show. And guys, if you like this episode of the 1v1 podcast, hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Of course, you can always hit the follow on Twitch. I'm your boy Vladis. That is your boy Tanner from Dopamine, and we will see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys. All right, episode is done. It is recorded. We're good. Chat, you guys have been absolute straight up G's. Thank y'all so much. And what kind of people because I understand, with the guild systems and everything like that, there's like the max 300. Like, how big of a guild do you want to inevitably have? Are you going to have a more tight knit strategic group, or are you going to hit the guild cap of 300?
I imagine that organically over time we'll probably hit a guild cap.
Okay.
The thing that I'm really looking for are people who are very, very competitive, but have a good attitude. You're not going to win every fight. Some days you might be completely outnumbered, and some days morale might be low. And I think that it's during those times where, someone kind of shows their character. So as long as I can find active players who are, improving at the game. You don't have to be the best player in the world, but if you are showing genuine improvement and you're striving to become better, you're welcome in the guild, right? Like that is what it is. I don't really have a limit. As long as I can fill the guild with the person that I'm looking for, there's always going to be a spot.
And I find it hard with very competitive PvP games because there's always this toxic nature that comes from very competitive PvP people.
It's so insane, dude. People just forget how to act on the internet.
People are animals, man.
They are. It's crazy. I mean, all you have to do, like, go look at any of the public Ashes of Creations discords. It is like, besides like the official one, go take a little look in any of the other channels. It is so crazy.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is, man. I think like a big the big offender of like why people act this way is because of how media works in general. Subconsciously, you're going to believe the first thing that you see, whether it's true or not. And, most people will never do their due diligence or research to kind of follow up on the actual result or the answer or the truth or whatever it is. So I think like a big portion of that really stems from just kind of how rumors and word of mouth and propaganda spreads. So it's like there's no real I mean, I shouldn't say there's no real consequences for it, because in a game like Ashes, like, your reputation really does matter.
Absolutely.
I think that like when people really kind of go overboard and they take their like trash talk and their banter too far to where it's like outside of the game, and you're no longer bantering about like, the game or the fights or things like this, it really kind of shines a light on like what their character is. And I've always tried to do, you're always going to have every type of person. I just think the MMO space can be a tough place.
It really, I was kind of, because out of all the mayors that we have on our server, like, I really wish you were one, because I just feel like a lot of the mayors aren't doing anything. They're just solely focused on PvP, and it's like they're letting their nodes rot. They're not putting any effort into what buildings are being created. Like, again, artisans, like you were saying, we're talking about our big bluebells and moonbells and all this other stuff. Like, it's important to work as a server to have more content to unlock. There's a lot of T2 things that are still not being done. Like, our node in Winstead, Angel's been doing a great job of trying to upgrade. We finally got our journeyman mining stuff, done and everything. And
everyone was so excited about that, by the way.
I know. I mean, we've been trying, and it's like, but dude, from what I know, and I'm not in leadership in Accent, let me just be very clear, but from the conversations and whispers that I've heard, dude, a lot of the mayors just don't care. They just want the flying mount for PvP and to find, copper nodes and weeping willows, and they're not even caring about their node. That
was like the big thing that was going around for us as well too. Like, we tried to get Aethanar, and then like everybody gunning for Aethanar like decided to go full smear campaign about how I'm like the worst person alive on the planet. How I'm like, it's like, it's so crazy, because anyone who's actually interacted with me, like, I had people reach out to me and they were saying like, hey, are you really gonna let that are you really gonna just let that node rot? Like, you just want that to destroy it? I'm like, dude, of course not. Like, I have a very, very passionate crafting team. Like, we have like Perp. Shout out to Perp. He is the fucking best. Okay, this guy has everything so organized. We have crafted over like 250 items for our guild alone. Damn. Like, and good items. Like, he is such a good motivator, and he is like my crafting guy. Like, he has made me more invested in the gathering and the crafting side of things, because I mean, you get shiny items, you get pieces of gear doing it. And I think that like that is like, we do have a really, really strong dedicated crafting team. Some of those players do overlap with the hardcore PvPers, but it's like recently, like, my favorite channels to join lately have been like, oh, I'm jumping in my I jump in the channel, like, a gatherer Tanner reporting for duty, like, what am I picking today, sir? It's like, I didn't think I would like it as much as I do, but it's been great. Like, it feels so good. You hit your level 10, you go get your you go like get your heroic or epic sickle. You're like, holy shit, like, it's got tons of rarity. It's been, and with me, right, like, I hit 25 in between all the war deck and stuff like that. It's like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna run around, I'm gonna pick flowers, and as I'm doing that, I'm gonna keep my eye out for caravans. Like, let's see, like, is Vladis walking around with a willow caravan over there? What does he got under the tarp, huh? Let's
Jesus, leave me alone. I just want to get some
that's
gold.
how it is.
No, but it's so funny because like I've never really gathered like I did in WoW, but it was just boring, you know. But I actually do enjoy like a lot of the open world systems and the gathering. And I know it's really annoying because I think there's just way too many people on server, which is why there's just a huge drought of copper, tin, zinc, whipping willow, just all of the stuff.
Nerfed it.
Yeah,
they just nerfed it too.
Yeah, it's wild. But I think honestly, once we actually get guilds and biomes, like more biomes with like 5 nodes to represent each biome, and we can start spreading out, right? And then we start getting unique gatherables in those biomes, and then we can start getting caravans to transport materials from one biome to the other because they don't have the materials we have, and we want their stuff, you know. I can't wait till that gameplay starts opening up, because I think that's when diplomacy and speaking, like when Angel Cry contacts Tanner because you're the mayor of some node in the tropics, you know, and the tropics is all
want our coconut.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, and then we're like, hey, we have weeping willows. Like, let's trade your coconuts for weeping willows. Like, and I just, there's just so much more gameplay that's going to start opening up. And I think again, that level of diplomacy and also like we talked about guild reputation, but not really. Like, I want to ask the question again, and it kind of is a shame I didn't get to ask this, but
sure.
How do you want Dopamine to be on the server, especially being very competitive? Because everyone always thinks that, oh, like Dopamine killed my caravan, I hate them, you know, but like, how do you want to be perceived in the future? Because I don't know if you can keep just knocking off caravans and just think, hey, no hard feelings, because there's always going to be feelings. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
Sure.
Just saying.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that I just want to be known as like a very hyper competitive guild that is going to be non-toxic when we do win. I think that is, you know, I'm not a big fan of non-aggression across the whole server. I think that makes for unrealistic like an unrealistic environment, right? Like for now, I am already allied with, you know, some big guilds, and that's going to be, you know, like we have like Nova, we have Anvil, we have Fable, and them together, that's a lot of people that we can't that we can't like PvP against. So eventually it's going to hit a point where if everyone is too friendly, nobody can ever hit a caravan. When it does happen, you know, and everyone's freaking out. It's like, I think that, you know, if like in those scenarios, I just think that, you know, if you have your caravan, I mean, maybe it's worth it to have a couple of caravans run and then have some players in your guild be guards for that caravan, you know, and then instead of losing that solo caravan to 8 players, all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, you know, we can't attack Axiom anymore because they are defending their caravans. It's extremely lucrative, right? And to run, like, you can take your one caravan from the tropics to the desert and you make 1 million gold. There needs to be some risk involved.
Absolutely.
I think that some people do take PvP, you know, some people do think PvP equals toxic. I don't really agree with that in a sense. I think that, like, you know, you're walking around with a golden goose egg. You know, does it make those players bad people if they attack you? I don't think so. I think that they just want to play the game. And because there's so little content in the game right now, that's really all there is. It's like, you know, if you aren't, everyone has their gear. Everyone has their gear, everyone has their professions up, and now they just want to play the game. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to run our caravan. And then it's like, nobody attacks us. Okay, well, then we're going to run another caravan, and then nobody attacks us. It's like, okay, you know what? No, we're going to go find some caravans, and they just want to create content, you know? They want to engage with the community. They see a caravan, they attack. They are hoping that you guys pull up, you know, 10 strong and match their numbers, and we get a good fight in. That's really all they're looking to do, so...
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think ultimately, like, reputation is just going to play such a huge factor in this game. And I don't think a lot of players or guilds are used to reputation, because what's the reputation like in WoW? There is no fucking reputation, really.
No,
I mean,
you jump servers. There is really none. Yeah,
it's like
New World was the first.
Yeah, New World
was the first
in a while.
Yeah, it was really good.
And there's Albion too. There's like the whole Albion crowd. There's guilds matter, reputation matters, how you're perceived in the server matters. And I think ultimately that's going to kind of play a huge thing. I think, when it comes to the whole PvP thing, I like your approach of like, hey, we're just hardcore PvPers, but it's like if we destroy you, it's not because we hate you guys. It's just we're just participating in this part of the game. You know what I mean? Like no hard feelings. Yeah. Like honestly, what's funny, I told Burns this. I was I forgot where I was, and I saw a copper node, and I was like, oh crap, there's a copper node, and I saw someone next to me. And I was like, and I rushed up and I dodged and I started hitting the freaking copper node. And the person next to me was a tank from Dopamine, and he flagged up and freaking thunder charged me or something. He started wailing on me, and I was like, all right, bro. He's like, you want the copper? Fine, freaking have it. I was like I won't take it. Jesus.
Yeah, I think that's the intended. I think that's the intended gameplay as well too. Like these
absolutely.
resources are very sparse, and it's like, how much is that copper node worth to you, right?
Right. Do you want to fight over it? No, for sure.
Yeah, and and so that's what it comes down to. And I think the bad reputation is like most people. I shouldn't say most, but I mean, like everyone has had an interaction where PvP was toxic. They're bullying a lower level. They're saying like, get wrecked, idiot, or they're saying like something that's just like their intention is to aggravate you and get you mad, right? It's like that right there is not the type of guild that I'm trying to be.
No, for
it's
sure.
like. If we are a very competitive guild, it's like, yeah, we need the resources. We are willing to compete for them. Mm-hmm. And if we get it isn't like we're not going to be a sore winner where we rub it in your face. It's going to be like we move on. We say GG, we move on, and that's always kind of. The approach that I've enjoyed taking, because like, why would you want to ruin the server? Why do you want to make people quit? Like, why do you want to be super toxic and aggressive to everybody that you engage with? It's like, what, you want to destroy this server, then you want to swap over to another server, do the same thing there. You attract a specific type of player doing that, and I've been in that environment before, so it definitely is not something that I enjoy or I advocate for.
For sure. Exiled Ranger, thank you so much for the 500 bits, man. Thank you. No, completely agree. I think people, like I said, they take stuff like way too crazy. And I think ultimately, like, I don't want people to quit this game. It's like, and I think especially, this is why I think PvP is such an emotionally inducing conversation for people. Because it just brings out something, whether you're like a League of Legends person, right? PvP is like, the League is like the most toxic game I always hear about. It's like, even League players tell me, don't play League. Like, I was like, wait a minute.
League is bad.
But you play League.
MMOs.
And it's like, I know, don't play League. Like, it's just like, wait, what?
MMOs are pretty bad too, though.
It's just
I don't know what it is, man. Something's in the juice, bro. Like, something's in the water.
Oh, man. I know. I don't want to keep you too long. Tanner, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, I'm probably going to get off too. I just want to kind of relax and chill today. Hopefully if Steven, I probably might go live. I don't know if maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. Whenever Steven goes live with his big old post on Discord of what he's choosing to do regarding the exploiters and the dupers, I will stream that day and I will be back. But Tanner, just want to again thank you again. What was it? It was I just want to put it in chat. So it was Discord.
Here, I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link.
Dopamine.
Just check your Discord.
Is that it right there? Did I spell it right?
Sorry, I can't see. Just check. Just copy from. You probably did. I just don't have your Twitch open.
Oh, okay. I think I spelled it correctly.
Yeah, you did actually. I see it. I do see it.
Okay, perfect. Guys, like I said, really appreciate it, Tanner. Thank you so much for just having very just a straightforward conversation and just to kind of lay stuff out. I know you're, like I said, Dopamine's so infamous on our server right now. There's like, and I just want people to kind of get, an idea, especially now with like new leadership, right?
Yeah.
Like getting how we're going to set all this stuff up and everything like that. So hopefully, man, I really hope you guys can get mayorship next time around, because our current mayors, at least in their place, they need to step it up, man. I don't know what the heck they're doing. I know Lineker's a mayor, and I enjoyed our conversation with Lineker, but I don't know what he's doing. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I want stuff, like I want my tier 2. I want my freaking not my farm, but my herb bean. Like, I want my freaking herb. Like, what's going on? You know,
I think I think there was a bit of confusion on like how the server nodes were going to be coordinated at first. There was like a big master plan.
There was,
and I was so on board. You know what I mean? Like there was. It's basically like everyone needs to work together.
Yes.
And if you just can't put your differences aside and just coordinate together, then that's what a siege war is for.
Absolutely.
So eventually, if there's a specific node that is just building whatever the hell they want, or they're not cooperating.
Slacking. I know there's
exactly
in the desert they duplicated Mirrorlith or something like that. There's like a note that has the same buildings Mirrorlith has. It's like, bro, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's just so stupid.
There is a lot of crazy stuff going on. I know that the actual plot system is a bit strange. Sometimes you do need to have like multiple supporting buildings with what you're trying to make, but the server should be much further progressed than it is.
Oh, for sure.
Which kind of sucks because we were pretty excited about it. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities. Like the tropics are going to open up, re-elections are going to happen, things happen, right?
Oh, and I think with node sieges, like you said, it's going to probably end up being when all of the guilds on the server kind of recollect like this mayor and this guild ain't doing shit. That's when enemies start becoming friends because now we have a common goal of getting this guy out of there, right? And I think that's going to be so cool to see personally. But very excited for the game, dude. A lot of very interesting mechanics that are going to be coming up, especially with like tier 5 nodes and vassalship and bigger space. I think once the world gets a bit bigger, we're going to see a lot more interesting things going on. Oh, 100%. Tanner, thank you so much, man. Chat, we will see you guys later. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know when. Just random time. You just hit that follow button on Twitch, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and anytime I go live, you'll stay up to date when I go live. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys